Most wholesalers just sit there and say, I just need more leads. But what does it actually really cost to do 10 deals in a month consistently over the year of 2026? So the goal at the end of the day is we want to do 10 deals a month consistently across the board throughout a year. So if you do the math, that's 120 deals a year. Most likely you're doing over $1 million in revenue, and that's very difficult to do. It really is, because most wholesalers in their stage at now, where they're doing 1 to 3 deals a month, can't handle doing 10 deals a month. It simply is a lot of work. You won't be able to do it by yourself at the end of the day. Even in my own company, where we do 10 plus deals every single month in my market, I can't do it by myself. It would be impossible. Handle all the marketing, handle all the leads, handle all the dispo processes, handle all the flip projects, handle everything. It's impossible. If you're doing consistently 10 deals a month, there is no way you could get it done by yourself. So that's one thing to think about. A lot of wholesalers right now are in that cold calling phase, that hustle phase, trying to get their first few deals. And it's not a bad thing to be doing, but you won't be able to do that forever, right? Eventually, you're going to have a team of some sort or a partner of some sort that's going to be able to help you do those deals consistently, because you're going to have to portion out parts of the business. For example, in my business, I handle all the marketing and all the lead generation, but most of the lead management, as far as like people who come in, got to reach out to them, got to follow up with them. I handle most of that for our team. And then I have my other partners who handle the dispo processes, go on the appointments, handle the flips and everything like that. And so it really just depends. But that's where a lot of wholesalers don't realize the actual gauge of what happens, because you're getting leads every single day, and you're not going to be able to take all those leads by yourself, do the sales, go on the appointments, worry about the marketing, making sure that's working, and then also trying to dispo it and worrying about flips at the same time. It's just simply not doable, and that's what a business would look like. And really, the final message is, it's not a side hustle anymore. In the beginning, it's more of a side hustle type feel, but this is now, at this point, what you're doing 10 deals a month consistently across the board. It's now an acquisition business. It's now a real business with real infrastructure, real systems that you need to have, because otherwise, if you don't have those systems, it's going to be chaos and it's going to be all over the place, and we can't have that. Most wholesalers think, they're like, okay, I usually close 1 in 25 of my leads, so I just need 300 leads and I'm gonna do consistently 10 deals a month. This really doesn't work that way, because you have to think in your head when it comes to a business. There's not just one marketing source you're gonna use. You're gonna use multiple different marketing sources that are gonna convert differently, act differently. Sometimes the leads will come in and you're not actually gonna close the deal or get it under contract until 6 months from now, 1 year from now, 2 years from now, with a consistent follow-up. It really is a varying game, because I could give you 300 leads in a month, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you might close a couple of those deals immediately, but even then, there's going to be a lot of those leads that will close 6, 12, 18, 24 months down the road, because you're going to need to do them with follow-up. So that's also one thing to keep in mind, is that not all leads are created equal. You can't just buy $300 pay-per leads and expect to get 10 deals a month if you think in your head, oh, it's going to convert at 1 in whatever, or they say it's 1 in 10, when in reality we all know it's not 1 in 10 because we've all bought these leads and we know for a fact that it's not 1 in 10. You have to make sure your marketing is dialed into the point where it's going to get consistent lead flow, but like I said, Google PPC, Facebook ads, direct mail, cold calling, SEO, all these different places to get motivated sellers. None of them are a bad or a good way to get motivated sellers, but they're all going to convert differently. Where your SEO and Google ads might be a lot quicker. However, it's more expensive. Whereas like Facebook ads, cold calling, and all those, it could be more longer term follow-up. They might not be as immediate. The chances of them being more immediate is going to be less, but you still can do deals this way. We still do deals this way, but you have to understand that it's not just about leads. It's actually about getting the quality leads that you can actually close, going into cost per contract numbers, which we'll talk later on. Now, to realistically hit 10 deals in a month, you have to break down your marketing. Usually, if you're a local real estate wholesaler, you need to break down your marketing like this. What I do in my company is this. We have SEO, we have our Google business profile, we have Google ads, we have Facebook ads, we have cold outreach, we have pre-foreclosures, and then niche list, follow-up leads, and then referrals. And these are many different marketing methods. However, you have to get good at one at a time, because a lot of people, they just try to do all of them at once, and you're not gonna get there. So getting to 10 deals a month is going to be a work in progress. It's gonna take years. It took me about 5 years to get to this point in our local markets to do 10 plus deals consistent months. And it takes time, because when you have 6, 7 different marketing methods, it's going to be very expensive, but also it's gonna be a lot to manage, even if you are using agencies to do this, which makes it even more expensive, right? SEO and Google Business Profile. It really depends on how you want to do this. You can do this yourself. However, SEO, I will tell you, is super, super difficult. And this is coming from a guy who I run SEO for other people, including our own company, and it's very difficult. It's extremely difficult. And why is it so difficult? Because everyone tries to treat SEO as a paid ads replacement, when in reality, it's not. It's the one that's more expensive than ads and takes the longest. However, if you are willing to wait out the long-term goals, it is a huge lifetime value return, because now the more and more you are ranked at the top and more people can find you organically without costing you money every time they click on it, it's going to further increase the lifetime value of your asset, right? Of your website, of your profile. And I kind of mix the profile and the website into one. However, a profile getting ranked is not the same as getting a website ranked. Those are two different things. Your website is what pops up organically in the search results when you look something up, whereas your profile is going to show up in the top 3 local pack for key terms like cash home buyers near me, or people who buy houses for cash, or whatever. Like these people look up a lot of different key terms, but that's one sector, and it can cost you a lot of time and money as well, because I know in the beginning when I was running my own SEO, I didn't hire an agency. I decided to stick it out while we were doing cold outreach in the beginning and pre-foreclosures to get a couple deals a month. That's where I really wanted to invest in SEO at the time, because I thought I was thinking really long term. Would I have started differently probably if looking back now? Yes, I probably would have. I probably would have started with Google ads and Facebook ads, because you're going to get a lot faster return, because it can take 9 to 12 months, especially depending on what your area looks like, small or big. It can really depend. And the more bigger the area is, the more expensive, harder it's going to be, and the longer it's going to take. And so that's one thing to think about with SEO. And this can really vary as far as pricing. I mean, most agencies probably in the wholesaling space, depending on your location, will probably charge you anywhere from $2,500 to $3,000 a month just on SEO. That's why I'm saying you could take that $2,500 to $3,000 a month and spend it on Google ads and Facebook ads and other things to get actual good deals. Then you can reinvest in SEO down the road, but great way to get deals in the long term. However, you can do this yourself, right? You can go on and get a carrot website, but SEO, and this is where a lot of people go wrong, is they think SEO is way easier than it actually is. And it really is. It is so difficult. You have to make sure your on pages lined up, and you have to make sure you're getting good backlinks, which is a topic video for another day, because I could go on a whole rant about SEO and Google Business Profiles, but that's what it would cost you on a typical agency, which most wholesalers do, because at the end of the day, you're in this business to close deals, not run your SEO, not do all this stuff. So most people are going to end up hiring agencies. So call that even $2,500, $3,000 a month right there already with your profile and your website. Now going on to Google PPC. This is where it can really vary, because if you're in a massive area like a Dallas, Fort Worth, or like these big metro areas, you could spend an unlimited amount of spend. Like, to be honest, you could tell Google I want to spend $50,000 a month, and it would probably do it, right? Or more, depending, especially in a place like Dallas or something. Now, if you're in a smaller area, like I'm in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, it's a much smaller area, so you're kind of peaked out at probably $2,000 to $2,500 a month. However, you can do Google PPC in wrong ways, because I've had competitors in our own market who say they spend $7,000 to $8,000 a month, and I'm like, wow, that's crazy, because we're beating you with $2,000 a month at $2,500 a month. So, all in all, you can really do bad with all these marketing methods. You can do it all the wrong way. Make sure you hire the right agency, or make sure you're doing the right thing with that. You don't want to go down the wrong path, because that could wipe you out if you kill your ad spend like that. But Google PPC, what I usually say for a usual rule is every $500,000 in reach that you're targeting, usually you want to allocate at least $1,500 to, right? So if you're targeting an area with $1 million in reach, and this is Google ad terms, they don't go off of population, they go off of reach. So in that terms, you want to make sure that you have at least $1,500 per $500,000 in reach. So if it's $2 million in reach, you want to make sure you're spending at least $6,000 a month. That's usually going to get you the best results. However, you don't need to. You can spend $3,000 a month. I wouldn't even start PPC on a local level if you don't have at least $3,000 a month to spend, because at the end of the day, in the beginning of your Google Ads campaign, you have to make sure that you're getting conversions, and you're naturally going to have to pay more per click than your competitors, because you're brand new, right? And so that's basically With that, you want to make sure you have the right ad spend, and you can spend as little as you want, but just know it's going to take longer to get to a good, successful Google Ads campaign. So I'd recommend at least $3,000. And even if you're in Dallas-Fort Worth, you can spend $3,000. It's just going to take a while for you to get your conversion tracking, get your conversion data set up, so you can actually have a successful campaign. But you don't need to spend $50,000 a month in Dallas if you can't afford it. I'm not saying that. You can spend as little as you want, but with most success, to have the highest success rate and get the most quality leads so that you're ranking at the top more often, I would say around $1,500 a month per $500,000 in reach, but there's different way to run campaigns, which is also another video for another day. Now, going on to Facebook ads. This is where I'm a huge fan of Facebook ads. Yes, the lead quality is definitely not as good, we can all agree, if coming from Google. However, especially if you're a beginner, where you're doing outreach, you're doing pre-foreclosures, probates, and you're starting to close, a couple deals a month, and you've got a little bit of spend you can allocate towards some ads. Facebook ads are a great option because this is something where you can allocate $30 a day, $40 a day to, sometimes $50 a day depending on the city, and you do it correctly with the right Facebook ads and keep them simple and don't overdo them and make them look corporate and nice looking. You're gonna have good success with it. If you have a good Facebook page and things like that, which play a factor, but you could spend $1,000 to $1,200 a month and get 5 leads a week, right? Even though they won't be stellar by any means, but you'll probably close like 1 in 25 to 30 with Facebook ads. I mean, that's just natural. And you can also, and this will save you money too, because it's probably the same way these pay-per-lead companies are getting those leads, right? Most pay-per-lead companies are using Facebook. Almost all of them are, to get those leads that they're selling to you for $250, $300, $350, when you can go out there and get them yourself for $50. I mean, it's just, at the end of the day, long-term, that's just gonna work better. So you can allocate now. So already, all in all, so SEO is $2,500, call it. Call it PPC, we'll say $3,000 is a minimum. So call it $5,500, and that $3,000 will probably even get you maybe a deal a month. So call it $5,000. So we have $2,500, $5,000, say $2,000 towards Facebook ads. So we have $9,500 already there with Facebook ads. The next thing I'm a big advocate for, of course, this is outside of outreach and pre-foreclosures and probates, because outreach and pre-foreclosures and probates are, essentially free if you do it in the right way. Now, you can pay for dialers and other softwares like that to make sure you're getting in touch with as many people. Usually those are pretty cheap. So I'm not really gonna go into that, but that's more of a hustle game, and I would highly recommend in the beginning to do that. But then the next thing is going into direct mail. Now, this is obviously very expensive because postcards can range from 50 cents to 70 cents, 80 cents, 90 cents per card, depending on how nice you get. Usually the simpler the better. But what we typically do in my business is we're sending it out every single quarter to a list that usually it consists of absentee owners, which are basically landlords. And typically, if you can target absentee owners that own the house in their personal name, that usually works a little bit better since they are more of a local landlord, and the odds of them wanting to sell a little bit quicker is much better, just because they don't want to deal with the tenant as much as like a company owned who owns a bunch of rentals would. And so then you have that list, and then you also have the list where it's usually people who own their house at least 5 years and then up to 10 years, right? So that sweet spot of them owning the house for a minimum of 5 but max of 10, that usually is a pretty good list, because once they own the house for 10 years or more, the likelihood of them selling is much less, and so your cost just starts to go down as far as or your return opportunity starts to go down, just because those people, yes, you can still get deals with people who get direct mail 10 years or more, but at the end of the day, it just might decrease a little bit. 5 to 10 is where most people end up, at least in my area, end up usually selling most of the time. And so that's usually the sweet spot, because you want to make sure it's at least 5 years, at least they have some equity there to do something with, but at least 10 years, because usually that's where people want to make a move, or something usually happens in that space, and that's a good sweet spot there. You can spend unlimited on this as well, but I would definitely recommend is $5,000 per quarter, at least $5,000 a quarter wherever you're at. I mean, and if you're in more competitive areas too, it could get even worse, because with mail, that's the last thing I'm doing for sure outside of SEO. I'm starting with Facebook ads, then going to Google PPC after I get a profile set up and a Facebook page, but then I'm going to go to SEO, then I'm going to go to direct mail, because direct mail, you could send out mail for every quarter for a year and not get anything back as well, just kind of like SEO, but in the end, it's like you have a revolving kind of brand equity as long as you put your brand in the mailer somewhere, right? It doesn't need to be extravagant with your company name, but at least it's in there somewhere. So like all in all, when you do the math on these, it's like you're spending anywhere from 10 to 20 grand a month, at least on a local level, to make sure you're getting 10 plus deals a month. I mean, it's just, that's the nature of it. And be able to spend every single month and be able to handle it while also being able to monetize the leads that you're paying for is a very difficult process, and it just takes time, and wholesalers just want to speed up to this process so fast in a year, and it's just, you can't do it in a year. There's so many things that have to speed up in a year, because now at the end of the day, not only are we talking about marketing here, we're talking about now we have follow-up. Now we have, okay, how do we systemize getting contracts? Do we go on appointments? Do we who's going to go on the appointments? What are we going to do dispo process-wise once we lock up the contract? What are we going to do there? Are we going to flip it? Do we have the funds to flip? There's just a million and one things now to do outside of just marketing at the same time, which also costs money in itself. And so you're seeing where the costs add up. You got DocuSign, you got all these other CRM softwares, you have like PropStream, batch leads, all this stuff that end up just costing you a lot of money. So like that's the real breakdown of what it looks like usually if you want to get 10 to plus deals a month, if you do it all correctly. Now, some people can spend the same amount and still not do 10 plus deals a month, but some people can. You just have to do it correctly, and it's more important to do it correctly when you're in a long-term phase, because if you do all this too fast, you're gonna burn yourself. Because in order to actually make money wholesaling, we need to make sure we're tracking it properly. And everyone goes off about tracking cost per lead and tracking number of calls, number of appointments, all this stuff, and our close rate and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, the one metric you need to track is your cost per contract in all facets of your marketing. If you spend 15 grand a month in marketing, how many contracts are you doing? Not just contracts that you get under contract that aren't going to close because they're bad deals, contracts that are actually going to close, whether it's a flip, wholesale, whatever. Your cost per contract numbers, how many are you getting? If you're spending 15 grand in a month and getting 8 contracts, that's a good number, right? But when you're starting to creep up to the $5,000 to $10,000 cost per contract, it's either there's a flaw there. It's either your marketing is not good enough and you're spending way too much, or your close rate's bad. There's something missing there. But that's the biggest metric, because that is the one metric that does not lie. If you spend 50 grand in a month and you get 5 contracts, you're at a 10K cost per contract, and hopefully you make more than that, right? That's a very low profit margin on those deals, right? That's a really high risk margin of spending $50,000 in a month and getting only 5 deals. I mean, yeah, 5 deals is great, but at $50,000 a month, that's ridiculous, right? That's why that metric is the biggest metric to look at when you're in your business. So if you are looking at, okay, where's my business going wrong? Look at your cost per contract numbers, the ones that have actually closed. Okay, we got 5 contracts last month. How much did we spend? What do we do with systems? Was it a marketing problem? Was it spending too much? Is our marketing suck? Or is it the other side? Are we just not dispoing enough? Are we not getting enough for our deals? Are we not closing well enough at the appointments in person? And so those numbers never will lie, and that's the biggest metric where a lot of people go wrong. Oh, I get a $50 cost per lead. That doesn't mean you got paid, right? That does not mean you got paid. So the final takeaway to really look at all of this is, yes, there's a lot of ways to get motivated sellers. There's a lot of ways you can get a ton of leads and get all this stuff, and people think getting the leads is the successor, but when it is, yes, but that's one piece of the pie, right? The structure is everything. You need to make sure when you do get those leads and when the leads are good, can you handle them? And that's where a lot of wholesalers just miss out, because they go out there, yep, I'm gonna go and buy $10,000 worth of pay per leads every single month, and that's what's gonna get me to where I need to go. It's not. It's not gonna get you where you need to go. You need to take your marketing one piece at a time and slow, and make sure that you can actually, once you start getting the leads, you can handle them, because your systems and processes have been building as you've been getting more leads slowly and surely, and you've been developing funds and reinvesting into new things. That is how you should wholesale in the long-term stance, so that 5 years from now, you have a business that's crushing it, and you're not stressed out to the max because you're sitting there having to work 14-hour days because you have 10 leads or you got 10 deals a month that you're trying to navigate by yourself. And so that's the final takeaway I want to show with wholesalers is, yes, everyone wants 10 deals in a month consistently across the board in your business. We all do. but it's very difficult to get to this point, a lot harder than people think and a lot harder than what these Instagram gurus, YouTube gurus, and course sellers tell you that it is. My YouTube channel is all about just my business. I run my own company in Sioux Falls that we do 10 plus deals a month every single month in a local market of 300,000 people. And so I'm here to preach that, hey, I've done this before. I've gone through all the problems. I've spent the wrong amount of dollars. I've bought the bad courses. I've done it all, just like we all have. But at the end of the day, if you want the realest truth when it comes to wholesaling and you want to learn really how it gets done and how this process needs to be done to make sure you can have the most success, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I would appreciate it a lot. And feel free to comment below if you have any questions. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.